let's have a chat about this. Because on one hand, I'm kind of, I'll show you. I did this before we started. You see that? That's my cursive. I love it. You know, I didn't actually grow up in an age where it was really taught, but I went to St. Peter's College in Central Auckland for the first 4 years of secondary, and I had an 85-year-old Christian brother teaching us. So for us, pi was 22/7. It wasn't 3.14. And writing was cursive. That we used fountain pens, literally, like 50 years after everyone else stopped using fountain pens. So I kind of love it. I kind of dig on it. But the call for cursive handwriting lessons yearly test is politically motivated and out of touch, teachers say. Educators are worried about a recently released Ministerial Advisory Group report on English, maths and statistics. They say the report, which is likely to inform the content of the revised English and maths curricula due later this year, is politically motivated, that's the terrifying bit, right? And misses the real drivers behind poor performance in the country's classrooms. The advisory group recommended grammar and handwriting lessons, including cursive handwriting in primary schools, and called for every child to have their own desk and chair. Okay. It's also been recommended annual checkpoint literacy and numeracy tests for all children at the beginning of each year. We've got Mark Potter, who is the president of the NZEI, speaking to RNZ with about 90 seconds of content. Let's have a listen to what he said about this.
We will go to the issue of teachers now, because they say they should have been consulted over the proposed changes to the numeracy and literacy curriculum. The Ministerial Advisory Group is recommending all children sit annual checkpoint maths and English tests to begin the school year. The report now publicly released and given to the Education Minister Erica Stanford in March also calls for grammar and handwriting lessons for primary students. NZEI, the Educational Institute President Mark Potter joins us now. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning.
Handwriting, that seems like a bit of a throwback.
Well, yeah, handwriting has never been an art that should have been lost at all, and most schools have continued that through. So, it's not really a big issue.
But there's clear that they want a bigger focus on it, in particular the grammar and handwriting. Do you support that in principle?
Well, there's always been a need for an emphasis on handwriting and grammar, and that's never gone away. What this seems to be is a more nostalgic, conservative look back, say, let's be like the old days.
In what way?
Well, they talk about emphasis on cursive writing and so on, and it's very vague at this stage, but schools saying, well, we haven't stopped teaching handwriting. Grammar has never been something that wasn't taught. Mm-hmm. We're certainly not expecting children to be able to recite all the different grammar structures. I defy most adults to see if they could, and even the ones who did learn in those ways.
But do you think, is it a return to people, writing out lines to practice their handwriting? I mean, is that what you're thinking is going to happen here, or should happen?
Well, we're not quite sure what's going to happen, because we're not even sure which recommendations the minister's deciding to accept. So a lot of it is still in the air, but certainly we wouldn't want to see that kind of a return.
So, long story short, team, what we're being told is obviously kids learn to write how to form letters, A, B, C, at school already. So they are being taught handwriting. They learn grammar at school already. So they're already learning these things. So for an education minister or a ministry to come in and start saying, yeah, you guys are already doing it, but we want to do you guys to start writing in the way that they did in the 1950s, 60s and 70s, seems to be the issue. The nostalgic look back to making New Zealand great again, i.e. doing everything like it was in the 1950s. So to me, it's more about window dressing, saying let's do it this way, whereas they're basically already doing it. Shane, any thoughts?
Oh, lots of thoughts, actually. Lots of thoughts in terms of people that I know that are in the teaching profession. I have kids that are coming towards the end of their tertiary education, and a lot of this is actually just bullshit, to be quite honest, mate. They say that national campaign, we want 1 hour of reading, 1 hour of writing, 1 hour of arithmetic. This happens on a daily basis. It may not be structured. Here's your hour of maths. Here's your hour of writing. Here's your hour of reading. But it happens on a daily basis, as does handwriting, as does spelling, as does grammar. And I think it's just in a slither in terms of this made-up cultural war that some on the right want to develop. And I think it's a myth. I think it's bullshit. And here's the other thing. You know, what we've seen in terms of 14, 15, 16-year-olds that are coming towards NCA and other type of programs that aren't quite up there, what we're seeing is we are seeing the results of standardization, because it was introduced when those kids were 5 or 6 years old. They had it for about 8 years in the system, which automatically, just by the very nature of it, fails more than 50% of our kids. So, you know, we've been through this experience and we're coming out the wrong end of it.
Yeah. Chewy?
Yeah, look, I couldn't do cursive to save my life. Put a gun to my head and get me to try and do it. Can't do it. But I often get comments on my handwriting. I have teachers' handwriting.
Oh.
Block letters and all of that. It's clear, it's legible, that sort of thing. To weirdly focus on cursive specifically is kind of fucked. And I think you've identified it, Shane. It's harkening back. They're pitching at the older audience that are like, yep, things were better back in my day. And the one thing that I'm going to ascribe that to is cursive, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
You know, and it just makes no fucking sense. And the first thing that springs into my mind is school is meant to prepare people for the adult life. What is cursive preparing them for? Writing letters back to their betrothed while they're away at war? Like, is that what this is about? It's stupid, and it is 100% culture war. It is the whole thing of like they're teaching these kids at school woke, new age, newfangled way of doing math, and be nice to people that are different from you, and gender neutral bathrooms and kitty litter. You know, that's all it is. It's laughable, and all of these teachers are standing up and going, please don't fuck with my lesson plans.
Yeah,
we're trying to teach kids, and I think when we get to the stage of like a new government coming through and radically changing what teachers have to do, we run the risk of like, oh, we fuck something up almost generationally. And like, I want people to be more careful, more considered when it comes to how our kids learn. They can't take these like sharp left, right changes of direction.
There's two things that I think, right? The first is, if you're kind of under 50, you've probably never engaged with cursive. How many teachers are under 50?
Yeah.
How many teachers are going to have to be trained in cursive to then teach the kids how to do cursive? And the second thing is, Chewy, I think you've said it so perfectly about getting the kids ready for their next stage in life, for moving on in life. It would be far better to do a typing courses than cursive. I mean, these things here are the quill of today. This is what people use 90% of the time in their workplace. So why aren't they doing Mrs. whatever her name's is typing, exercises? That surely would make more sense.
I laugh because my mum insisted that I take typing in my 3rd and 4th form, or like a literal fucking physical typewriter. And she was right, but just not in the way that she thought she was. Yeah, and it was just like, oh, this is an important skill. So you learn how you don't jam up your typewriter. I can type quite fast. I don't type the way that I was taught. But yes, that is a vital thing for the people these days to use. We don't think about that. I mentioned, critical thinking when it comes to media.
Yeah,
that is the world that we live in now. Not writing a letter to the constabulary. Or whatever cursive was for.
Look, but see, boys, I actually think that there's something more sinister involved in all of this. They've got us talking about writing styles that are based on a 50 sort of methodology, when actually they're hacking the curriculum to pieces. They've got a very narrow working group, and basically appointed by the Associate Minister of Education, David Seymour, led by a woman called Elizabeth Rata, that has very conservative views on teaching methodologies and curriculum. And the history curriculum has been revised. Now, one of the groups I thought you would naturally sort of go to would be the Association of, probably the name is wrong, but this is what that means. Basically, there's a Association of History Teachers in Aotearoa, New Zealand. They haven't been consulted with, neither have the science specialists. So I actually think this is quite a sinister move on behalf of David Seymour and his cronies.
But don't you understand, Shane? Don't you understand what they're doing is an independent survey, like at Kāinga Ora, how they didn't consult Kāinga Ora in their independent survey. So that's what it is. Just to bounce back on what you're saying, though, Shane, the idea, this is the scariest part, right? The revised English and maths curricula due later this year is politically motivated and misses the real drivers behind poor performance. Now, when I think politically motivated, I know Chewy just made a joke there about kitty litter and, gender neutral bathrooms, but I think about conservatives in Texas changing the curriculums because they don't want their children to know about the world that's gay outside there. Now, I know this is maths, but maybe prime numbers are gay. Now, I don't know, something, and maybe they're trying to do something else, but that's what I think when I hear politically motivated, and it's concerning. Okay, maybe they can't do much in maths. 1 + 1 will still equal 2. But if any curriculum is going to be politically motivated, I'm really concerned about that.
Yeah. No, I agree. And the narrowness of the focus groups are a concern. And it does, as you said, Chewy, if you do change it, it's changed for a generation. And here's the other thing, just my day-to-day experience with I work with a really great bunch of young people. I exchange sort of views with them on a daily basis, as I do with my own kids and their mates. I think they're more worldly. I think they're more widely read. I think that they're able to be very coherent in terms of their written form. And I think that your average 16, 17-year-old kid in 2024 is certainly a lot more worldly and not more knowledgeable and a lot more engaged than I was at their age. And we ought to be celebrating these young people and not sort of shitting on them.